Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Housing for Good. I'm Karolyn.
And I'm Chris.
All right, Chris, do you have any news for us today?
Well, I came across this really interesting article about think permitting and inspections reform don't matter. Listen to this hellish account. So I won't read through it, but basically it's about a citizen who wanted to build some homes in Los Angeles and all the crazy stuff that he went through to try to get that done. And he finally walked away and said, you know what, I'm over this. The city wanted him to make a repair to a line for $22,000 and just a lot of crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And so, there's somehow cities have to start coordinating with people that are trying to invest in their communities to build any type of housing. I mean, you don't want a developer to come in and take advantage, obviously, but at the same time, you need to have enough staffing to coordinate and to make sure that these projects are going smoothly because it costs a lot of money to build.
Yeah.
So that was a really interesting article that I found. But again, the name of the article is Think Permitting and Inspections Reform Don't Matter. Listen to this hellish account. So go out on the internet. I'm sure you can find that whole article that talks about this guy's experience. But these inspections must be transparent in every consumer-facing industry. Performance is public. Restaurants survive on reviews. Contractors live on or die by ratings. Yet inspection departments, the gatekeepers of all housing production, operate in opacity, which that's a big word I've never heard of. But anyways, and I mean, we've had some things. I mean, for the most part, I think our city does a good job, but sometimes they'll ask for things that don't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And they don't understand that as a nonprofit building low-income housing, that every single thing that we do is adding cost to the project that we're trying to do so that we can keep rents low and the project on track and all of that type of thing. So, when you're putting unnecessary things because you think it looks good or whatever, like unnecessary sidewalks or sidewalks in before the project is completed, things like that makes it very difficult for anybody that's trying to develop stuff. So anyways, I just thought it was an interesting article because McPherson Housing Coalition has had meetings in the last year about different ways to coordinate, and that's always comes up is the planning and zoning departments sometimes make it difficult to build in a community, and they're really hurting projects. You want affordable housing, but yet you throw all these roadblocks in the way, and then people can't make it work. So that's my news.
And then when you hear about regulations, well, this political party doesn't want regulations, and this one over here likes lots of regulate. Well, those regulations make it really hard for stuff to get done. And I get it. We all want to be safe. We all need, there needs to be some accountability, but don't make it so hard.
And I think sometimes if communities had like a housing group, I know in Hutchinson they have a group, a housing, and I don't know what they do exactly. I don't know if they talk to the planning and zoning and they together they make recommendations of what needs to happen. I don't know if that's happening, but that's an idea. Put together a board of realtors and appraisers and contractors and people who build in your community and say, what are the problems that you're seeing? Why is it so hard? So anyways, that's my news. Yeah.
Good idea. Okay, so what are we talking about today, Chris?
So this is Housing for Good, Episode 2, From Projects to Permanence, Building Housing That Lasts. So a lot of people talk to McPherson Housing Coalition. They call Karolyn and I or different staff members, and they say stuff like, how'd you do it? Well, and so we have to go through the whole rigmarole. And I thought, maybe it would be better if we had a couple of episodes on how to do a development. How do we do this? How it's not that difficult, but a lot of times people don't even have their status. Maybe they're not even really a business or a nonprofit. They're just trying to go out and do some good work or do whatever. So they don't even have all the things that they need to make that work. So in the first episode, we actually covered a lot of that. So this episode will be a little bit more into the meat and bones or whatever that is.
It's funny. It's funny to me when people think that you just did this overnight.
Poof.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. You blink your eyes. Remember I Dream a Genie? You blink your eyes.
I know. Wouldn't that be great? If I could I Dream a Genie, I'd have some pretty cool stuff. I would have some really cool stuff. Let's see what I need.
Okay, back to the podcast.
Okay, sorry. I know, we're hilarious.
Okay, so we've talked about community support and early funding and how projects like the Oak Harbor Cottages started as pilot solutions to very real service gaps.
Okay, today we're talking about what happens when those pilot projects work and how to move them forward and how to turn a successful project into long-term permanent housing. So the one thing that we have to start with, and that's really important, today we met with a group that has some potential housing that they're going to move forward with. It's a really cool idea, and I love it. Can't tell you what it is because it's not open to the public, but I can tell you that this could really be something. But the thing that we told them was, when you want to do a project, you have to start at the end, which sounds crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Who ever heard of starting at the end? But if you don't know where you're going and what you're trying to do, then none of this works or makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you want to build something, what are you going to do? So grab a group of people that you want to work with and have a brainstorming session and figure out what you need to do, and then find an architect, find some funding, and start there. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah. And it makes total sense because, when we built the Oak Harbor Cottages emergency shelter, or we built Sutherland Estates, we knew what we wanted the end product to look like.
Yes.
And so we knew then what steps we needed to take to get to that end. Building a few units is one thing, but building housing that will serve families for decades is something very, very different. And one of the first big shifts when a project starts to grow is when local government becomes directly involved.
So it's funny, we were talking about in our news today, planning and zoning departments, but the planning and zoning departments, all of those relationships really matter, and you have to get them in from the beginning so you understand stuff like setbacks, what's allowed. So in our city, an R1 would be single family, R2 is two family, and R3 is multifamily. So you have to know those things, or you're going to have to get that changed. So you're going to have to build those relationships with your city people to figure out what's allowed. I might have this big idea of what I want to do, but does it make sense in the neighborhood? Yeah. Is this something I should build? So you have to build those relationships.
And I can tell you from firsthand knowledge, it's really intimidating if you've only worked in the nonprofit or a church space before and you've never done this kind of work. So you just have to go in it one meeting at a time, have somebody beside you, like Chris, that she's done this, and you just kind of have to navigate your way through. But let me tell you, it can feel intimidating.
Yeah, and it's a huge opportunity when you build those relationships because the cities are responsible for infrastructure, land use, and long-term planning. I mean, they're supposed to be the ones that grow the city in a healthy way. Back in the olden days, some cities, I'm not sure somewhere, they don't have planning and zoning. So you see crazy stuff all over the place. It's really important that you coordinate so that, you don't want to have housing that doesn't fit in the neighborhood. It needs to be something that really coordinates. I feel like everything that we do really fits well. Over all the years, we've been around 18 years, and even when we moved some houses in, and we had a high school house, we've done all kinds of things, they always fit in the neighborhood. So you would drive down the street and not know that was one of ours because it was important to us to have it fit right in.
Yeah, yep, that's a good point. And also, when you bring the city's leaders in early, so you go to planning and zoning, you start talking about what you're wanting to do, it builds trust with them instead of resistance.
Yeah, exactly. Surprises create opposition. So if you don't let people know what you're doing, so they get really upset about it because they're not in your head and they can't see what you're seeing. I mean, people in my head would be frightened.
Oh my God!
I think they would be running down the road if they were in my head. But transparency builds partnerships. So when people understand what you're doing, and they can see it and you can try to visualize it. Karolyn's really good about telling stories, better than me, actually. I mean, I tend to be the humorous side of it, but she's better at kind of explaining things to people in ways that they can kind of understand. So that's really important. Be transparent and do not have any surprises.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sutherland Estates is a great example of how different permanent developments came from small pilot projects.
Yeah, with Sutherland, we had to think about full site planning, utilities, long-term maintenance, and how the neighborhood would function years into the future. So everything that we're building fits right into that neighborhood. It looks cool. It's going to last for a very, very long time. We want everything to be maintained well. We have beautiful lawns and eventually flowers and sprinklers and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really important that we do it that way, that we have everything done in a really nice way.
Yeah, because the bottom line is it's not just about putting up another house. You really want it to flow with what's already there so it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, and it is about building community that will be stable long after the ribbon cutting. So you have to make sure that you're really building community within your projects and within the neighborhood. I mean, in a lot of neighborhoods, they don't want this type of housing because they're afraid it's going to lower the property values or you're going to bring in those kind of people or whatever. So you have to be able to build something that people feel that they're proud of.
Yeah. Yeah, and it changes the conversation then to design and financing.
Yeah, and so that brings up another point. It also changes who needs to be at the table. So you need engineers, we talked about that, planners, you need lenders. In our particular case, we try really hard. We haven't borrowed any money for anything that we've ever done because we know that adds to the cost over the long haul. You need service providers and government partners. All of that's really important in your projects. Make sure you have engineers, architects, planners, lenders, service providers, and government partners, and possibly people in the neighborhood. So if you can have city meetings before you put up a project, let the neighbors know what you're doing so they're a big support. So they don't yell at you in the street like I had a couple of times because they were like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So once you move into the larger developments, state programs become much more important. You've got state programs, you've got grants, and you've got compliance. And everything changes once you move into the bigger projects.
Yeah, and that's really important because those programs come with detailed requirements. Reporting, inspections, income limits, and long-term affordability rules. So in our projects, we have to check people's income to make sure that they still qualify to be in our project so people know at the government level that we're not renting this house for $5,000 a month. Can you imagine? And
I cannot imagine.
So you have to make sure that you're following the rules. So if you use that type of funding, it's important to follow the rules and to know that you have requirements to report.
Yeah, and you have to have a strong administrative system. That's where your mom, as our financial person, and you as executive director, and me, we really have to know what these grants and these programs are requiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Compassion can't alone manage compliance. Compassion is great. I think that's where it all starts. You have to have a compassion. You have to see that something needs to get done. But you need trained staff and solid processes to really pull this off.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you get into those big projects, the programs make the projects possible because they could not be funded locally.
Yeah, exactly. State funding opens doors to scale. So, eventually if you want to do something big, you're going to have to go find some major money somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other piece that comes in here is federal partnerships and advocacy. So we have made it a real goal of ours to become familiar with our federal representatives so that when we call them, they know who we are and we can have a conversation with them about what we want to do.
Yeah, and so basically it's not just about funding at that level. Funding is really important and they need to be able to see that you can do what you say you're going to be able to do. But also what's really great about having relationships at that federal and state level is we can pick up the phone and go, hey, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
How do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do what?
Yeah.
I've said that a couple of times.
Yeah.
What? But they're really good. I mean, I know I've emailed HUD back and forth about a couple things.
Yeah.
And they've had been really good at explaining because it was a new system for us. We'd never taken HUD or received HUD funding before. And it was really great that they said, okay, do this and this and this. So our relationship with them has been very, very good.
Well, and the system that you are going to be navigating is very complex. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done, and they want it done a certain way.
Right.
So if you're going to play ball, you got to play ball by their rules.
Right. And it's not political, it's practical. Communities need access to resources, and someone has to speak up to make that happen. So we don't play these political games. That's not our thing. We stay out of the politics, no matter what we think personally. But we do have these relationships so that we can get done what we know we want to get done in our community.
Yeah. And then advocacy for what you're wanting to do often grows naturally out of successful local projects. So I love to say when we built Oak Harbor Cottages, non-congregate emergency shelter was on nobody's radar, and there was no federal money out there for it. And now, because they've seen it and the success of it, now you can get funding for those kinds of things. So it's very important, the advocacy work that you do as well.
So the other thing we have to look at is networks make housing possible. That's really important. At this stage, no organization can do it alone. So if you think you're going to do all this by yourself, you can't, because you need funding, you need people to help you, you need planning and zoning, you need all kinds of people. So you've got to build those relationships to be able to make that happen.
Absolutely. You need service partners, property management, construction, donors, and volunteers. It really is a network, and you're there to put it all together. I can't do everything that needs to be done. I have to have help.
Yeah, it's absolutely a team effort. Not only the team within your own organization, but outside of your organization, state level, federal level, the bigger properties that you want to manage or the bigger properties you want to build, you have to build those relationships and those partnerships. People have to have confidence that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And when those relationships are strong, projects don't just get built, they stay strong.
Yeah, and so what we want communities to know. So first, if there's one thing we hope people take away from these 2 episodes is that housing solutions are possible. Anybody can do this, but you have to take the right steps, build your organization, have the right partnerships, start from the end, and then move backwards. All of those types of things have to happen in order for this to work.
And I love it when you and you don't have to start big. So I've heard you say this on more than one occasion. Somebody will come to you and say, well, I want to build 500 houses. Okay, well, how about if we start with 20?
Yeah, you don't need to build like 20 city blocks. Start small. First of all, are you even sure this is going to work?
Yeah.
Right? So if you build 50 or 500 homes, do you know what's going to work? Do you have policies in place? Do you have staffing? Do you understand how this is going to happen? We do everything small and then we grow so that we can make all the mistakes, which you're going to have some because no matter how much you plan, things happen. Then you're not dealing with 1,000 people. Maybe you're dealing with 2 people.
Yeah.
I was thinking of something that just happened. That's why I said that. So it's really important. But you start by paying attention to what your community actually needs. Talk to people. If you might have some big idea, I've had the craziest idea dome homes, all kinds of crazy stuff. And if that works in your community, great, go do that. But talk to people and see what they think, get their opinion, and then move forward, right? Don't just try to go slap something up because you think it's the coolest thing ever. Is it going to be accepted in your market? And in the long run, is it going to be stable and is it going to be able to work? So that's why you need to build partners, taking the next right step, and over time, those small steps turn into permanent solutions.
Yeah, and I can tell you from experience, it's a whole lot easier to make a mistake and make an adjustment when it's just a few people you're dealing with rather than, like you said, 50 homes or 500 homes.
Yeah, I don't understand. But people have these grandiose ideas. And I think sometimes in these bigger cities especially, the reason they fail is because they have this grandiose thing. I remember when we were in our state capital and somebody went up and there was some money available. They wanted all of it. I was like, hello, you can't have all of it. There are 105 counties in Kansas. You can't have that much. Share a little bit. Can't you start small? And then I understand you have a bigger problem than we do where we live, but we all have problems. Yeah. Can you divvy this out a little better?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is our episode number 2.
Okay.
For how we did this and how to bring permanent housing to your community. If you would be interested or you know somebody that would be interested in being on Housing for Good, drop us a line, give us a review, tell us how we're doing, tell us what you love or what you hate about us. And you can do that at housingforgood@mcphersonhc.org.
And have a great day.